Hollywood has produced great movies over the years. Some of these movies include numerous sex scenes, but some of these scenes were deleted because they were considered too sexualized for TV. Like this one of Jennifer Aniston being topless, or this other one of Alice Portman, which had to be redone because she was completely naked in the original version. And there is a long list of movies like these, so sit back and join us as we explore some of these scenes, which ended up being deleted because they were too much for TV. Linda's nude scene in Wanderlust. All the pervs in the house will be really disappointed by this, especially if they are crushing on Jennifer Aniston. Anyway, who wouldn't? Everyone knows she's a hottie. In the 2012 comedy Wanderlust, we were almost in for a treat, but a nude by Linda, which was a role being played by Aniston, was edited out of the movie. This comedy ensemble follows a storyline where Linda and her husband George have a rich and fancy life in New York City. But since life is always unpredictable, their lives fell apart when the economy went kaput. As a result of their lives changing abruptly, they decide to look for a fresh start. As they are on this journey, they find themselves at a commune full of people with all sorts of characters. Linda and George did everything within their power to be part of this group. One of the things they found themselves doing included Linda taking part in a topless protest that was captured by television cameras. Yes, her boobies were out in the open, but here is the thing. In the movie, all that you could see was a pixelated version of the protest, which was covered by the local news. But here is the kicker. According to an insider, Jennifer Aniston shot another version of the scene, which was left on the floor of the editing room. Rumor has it that in this version, which never made it to the final edit of the movie, she was fully topless, but her publicist later came out to defend the actress, claiming that no such thing happened. According to the publicist, the version of the scene in the final movie was the one that was always intended. The next scene on the list involves Lady Gaga and the beautiful Salma Hayek. Patrizia and Pina sex scene in House of Gucci. If you have watched House of Gucci, you must have realized that Lady Gaga was one of the most outstanding performers in that movie. Unlike many musicians who struggle in their transition into the film industry, Lady Gaga's transition was quite smooth. In 2021, she received a lot of credit for her role in House of Gucci. Despite the fact that film critics had a lukewarm reception of this movie, everyone was amazed by how good Lady Gaga's performance was in the movie. The film, which was directed by Ridley Scott, is a story about the famous fashion band Gucci. Patrizia, a character played by Gaga, spends decades in prison after she had hired a hitman to take out Maurizio Gucci. At the time that the movie was being created, there was an idea that was thrown on the table by Lady Gaga, which involved her and Salma Hayek, who played the role of Pina, engaging in sexual acts. In fact, the director, Ridley Scott, filmed a very steamy sex scene between the two women. Unfortunately, after seeing that the sex scene was too hot, it did not make it to the final product of the movie. The next scene on our list involves a character who stripped naked in the original shoot, but this scene was edited out of the movie. Natalie strips in front of Larry in Closer. In the 2004 drama film Closer, Natalie Portman was one of the best performers in the film. In this film, Natalie was playing the role of Alice, and one of her scenes did create quite a buzz among fans and critics alike. The scene in question involves her and Clive Owen, who plays the role of Larry, where she strips in front of him. The two are seen to be in what seems to be like a private room in a strip club, and Alice is offering her services to Larry, who is having the moment of his life. As she is doing her thing on the pole, she is wearing very little, and most of her skin is out in the open to be seen and lusted upon. But here is the thing with this scene. Natalie Portman does not strip fully naked, but that was not the original scene that was shot in this film. Another version was left in the editing room. In this version, Portman does strip fully naked and Larry gets to see everything. But the thing is that if this scene would have made it to the final product of the film, it would have lessened the power that Alice has over Larry in the movie. As a result, she decided that she did not want to be fully nude in the movie. The director of the movie, Mike Nichols, obliged with her demands, and the fully nude scene was edited out. The director even claimed that the scene where Natalie was fully nude was completely destroyed to avoid it landing on the wrong hands and being leaked onto the internet. Later on, Natalie claimed that unlike many directors, Nichols has always portrayed a sense of professionalism and respect towards women. In this next scene, the directors of the movie had no option other than to delete it. Otherwise, it would have destroyed the entire movie franchise. Tony Stark group sex in Iron Man. Iron Man has grown to become one of the greatest movies ever made by Marvel. This film has made Tony Stark to be one of the most critically acclaimed superheroes of all time. With his iron suit, Tony has been managing to take out the bad guys and keeping sanity and peace. But here is the kicker. In the creation of Iron Man, the creators of the movie had tabled an idea that would have completely destroyed the kind of reputation that the iconic superhero already had. In this film, Tony flies to Afghanistan to save some villagers. But here is the thing. The filmmakers had planned that before heading out to Afghanistan, Afghanistan, the superhero should indulge in a steamy group sex with 3 girls. But after giving it much thought, the script was changed, and Iron Man only gets these girls to a room, then excuses himself and flies off to go and save the world. The next scene on the list is from a movie that had countless scenes of nudity. Eleanor's nudity in Babylon. Babylon is one of the films in the history of Hollywood that have had explicit nude scenes without any apology whatsoever. It is difficult to believe that there was any nude scene from this film that was ever left out. This is because the director of the film, Damien Chazelle, has always been enjoying creative freedom for quite a while now. The director used this creative freedom when he was making Babylon, and he included nude scenes in the movie whenever he felt like it. When the movie was fresh out of the kitchen and was sent to the Motion Pictures Association, it was as clear as daylight that this movie was going to get an NC-17 rating. In this film, Jean Smart plays the role of Eleanor St. John, and she was in a scene that involved 4 naked men. Jean later spoke about this scene where she said that the men in question were just playing football in the background of the shot, but when she said this, none of it made sense. In fact, word on the street is that the nude scene involving Eleanor and the 4 men was actually too graphic to be included in the movie. Ever wondered what would happen if an adult actress gets a shot in Hollywood? This next scene on our list is just about that. Topless Stormy Daniels in The 40-Year-Old Virgin. The 40-Year-Old Virgin might be one of the best inappropriate comedies of all time. Well, if there is anything like an inappropriate comedy. This comedy movie was supposed to be sex comedy, but in reality, there were not so many nude scenes in the movie. In fact, what people only get to see in this movie is a woman showing off her breast during a scene which was all about speed dating. In the movie, viewers could even see a scene where the main protagonist of the movie, Andy, is watching adult movies which were shared to him by his good friend David. But in this scene, nothing really comes out of it, as people never really get to see what he is watching. In the adult videos that Andy was watching, one of the adult actresses who is seen mostly is a woman who has had some alleged connection to a certain president of the United States. Of course, we are not going to mention names here. Anyway, according to Judd Apatow, who was both the writer and director of this film, the videos that Andy was watching were actually taken from Daniels' existing adult films. But here is the kicker. The adult actress was also brought in to do a scene specifically for the 40-year-old virgin. In the said scene, Andy is fantasizing about having a conversation with the adult model, with Stormy being fully topless the entire time. The whole scene of Daniels being topless was cut from the original version, which made its way to the theaters. But later on, it was restored for the unrated version that was released on DVD. The next deleted scene was so erotic, even I would have supported its deletion. Edited sex scene in Nymphomaniac. If there are films that have had countless sex scenes and it is almost hard to believe that any scene was left out, then Nymphomaniac makes the cut. The 2.5-hour-long film, which was directed by Lars Trier, gave pervs out there all that they needed. It was almost as if it was some erotic water which was quenching perverted thirst, if there is anything like that. During the Berlin Film Festival, the creators of the film revealed that there was a sex scene that was edited, and the original version of the scene did not make it to the screens. According to the filmmakers, the part of the film that was edited out was so explicit, it was almost as if it was an adult movie, like literally porn. The scene in question involved young Joe being given a fellatio. This scene was too graphic that it just had to be left on the floor of the cutting room. The next scene on our list is from a classical comedy, which was to feature a scene of a naked teacher. R-rated nudity in The Breakfast Club. The 1985 classic comedy, The Breakfast Club, managed to get an R rating, mainly because of dialogue which involved mature topics like sex and violence.
When you grow up, your heart dies.
Who cares?
I care.
The director of this film, John Hughes, pushed things more into the adult territory when he was working on this movie. The movie is said to have featured some R-rated nudity, but the scene in question did not make it to the final product. During those days, there was a trend that was being used by filmmakers whereby they were just having scenes which contained pointless nudity. The Breakfast Club was also going to adopt this trend and have a naked woman in the movie for no reason whatsoever. But later on, Molly Ringwald and Ali Sheedy, together with producer Michelle Manning, spoke to the director about this scene. They allegedly told him that the scene was going to be completely unnecessary and they wanted it not to be filmed. Luckily, the director listened to them and he never filmed it, making the movie stand out during the time. Now, the next scene from our list is from one of the most epic movies of all time. Sit tight, because this one is a shocker. Merry and Pippin nudity in The Lord of the Rings. Movie lovers would tell you that The Lord of the Rings was not supposed to have any nude scenes, and any form of nudity would completely destroy the taste of the movie. Well, they might be right, but there is something that most people don't know about this movie. The Lord of the Rings movie trilogy is adapted from the Lord of the Rings novel, which was written by J.R.R. Tolkien. In the original storyline of this franchise, the books did actually contain some nudity, but when it came down to the movie version of the story, there is no single instance of nudity. But here is the kicker. Initially, there were plans to have some nudity in the movie. The scene in question involved Billy Boyd and Dominic Monaghan, who played the roles of Merry and Pippin. The two appeared on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, where they were discussing their podcast, The Friendship Onion, which was centered mainly on the Lord of the Rings trilogy. The two actors revealed that there was an idea that was put on the table to have them appear in a butt-naked scene.
Here's the thing, there was almost nudity in the movies. Me and Dom. Hello!
According to what Boyd said during the interview, Philippa Boyens, who was the co-screenwriter of the trilogy, was thinking about having a scene where Merry and Pippin were dropped by a tree. This scene would then graduate to them taking off their clothes as they are coming down the branches of the tree. By the time that Merry and Pippin would be on the ground, they would have been completely butt naked. Later on, it was decided that this scene might have taken things too far. As a result, it did not make its way into the movie. The next scene on the list is about an actress who had shown that she was a force to reckon with from the early days in her career. Kristen Dunst's topless scene in Marie Antoinette. Ever since she made her debut in the film industry, Sofia has always managed an image of seriousness, and she established that she is not the type of woman to be toyed with. Her debut films, The Virgin Suicides and Lost in Translation, cemented her name as one of the best upcoming actresses in Hollywood. But when Sofia featured in the movie Marie Antoinette, her popularity grew more larger. Despite her performance in the movie being one of the best in the film, the movie did receive divided criticism from film critics. One of the main things that critics had an issue with was the fact that the movie did feature actors who not only did not speak English, but they also did not even attempt to have European accents. Kristen Dunst, who played the role of Marie Antoinette in this film, was highly praised for her great performance. In fact, according to the late film critic Roger Ebert, Kristen's performance in this movie was pitch perfect in the title role. One of the reasons why Kristen's performance in the movie was sensational is because she had a very good support that she got from Sofia. The director of the movie had an idea of Kristen doing a topless scene, which she did, but later on, she did not want the scene to be included in the final edit of the film. As a result, approached Sofia Coppola, who talked to the director, and the scene was eventually removed. The next scene from our list is from one of the most famous movie franchises in the world. Naked Batman scene in Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. Movies by DC have always portrayed characters like Batman and Superman as highly respectable figures in all the movies created by the movie production company. The kind of respect accorded to these two iconic figures would make you fail to believe that one of them could ever be featured in a nude scene. In fact, given that female superheroes have never really been portrayed as iconic as their male counterparts over the years, one would make a wild guess that if DC was going to have a superhero nude scene, it would be one of the female superheroes, someone like Wonder Woman, or maybe a villain like the beautiful Harley Quinn. But that was never the case, as someone else took the hit of a nude scene on their behalf. Bruce Wayne, a role that was played by Ben Affleck in Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, was the one who took the nude scene bullet. Luckily for Batman, the scene was eventually deleted. But what is the scene that we are talking about here? You see, in the Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice movie, there was a scene where Bruce Wayne was in the shower and the camera revealed his bare behind. This film was later edited out of the film in the original theater version of the movie because it seemed to be a little bit too much Batman's skin. But later on, the scene was included in the Ultimate Edition home video release of the movie. The next scene on the list is from one of the most acclaimed thriller movies of our time: Emily Blunt's nudity in Sicario. The 2015 thriller Sicario managed to feature a very impressive cast. The storyline in this movie involved the war between the FBI and Mexican drug cartels. Directed by Denis Villeneuve, who is currently specializing in doing sci-fi movies, the film managed to become a major success. Denis pulled up an amazing team of actors for the film, which was led by Emily Blunt, who played the role of Special Agent Kate Mesa. When this film came out, many people heaped praises on Emily's and co-star Del Toro's performances in the movie.
You're not a wolf. And this is the land of wolves now.
If there is one trait about the director of this thriller, Denis Villeneuve has always had a thing of giving women leading roles in his films. Perhaps this might be one of the reasons why he decided to give Emily Blunt the Agent Mesa role in this film. At one point, the screenwriter of this film, Taylor Sheridan, once asked Denis to change the role of Special Agent Mesa into a male character, but given his love for giving women leading roles, he insisted that this role would remain as Kate Mesa. During the shooting of the movie, there was a scene where Agent Mesa gets to shoot a nude scene. Later on, Emily Blunt pushed against the scene being included in the final edit, and Denis decided not to include it. Anyway guys, buckle up, because we are going out of space to fight some aliens in this next scene. Sex scenes in Alien. The sci-horror classic Alien is by far one of the best sci-fi horrors ever created. If someone tells you that this movie was going to have any nude scenes, you would probably rubbish it. Of course, the only scene that people get to see some skin in this movie is the scene where Sigourney Weaver, who plays the role of Ripley, is wearing only a tank top and underwear. Apart from that, there is nothing much to see for pervs. In fact, she did not even spend much time dressed like that, but there was a plan to have more scenes other than this one. The original script that was written for this movie included numerous sex scenes that would take place within the Nostromo. In fact, what many people don't know about this movie is that there was a sex scene that was done during the shooting of the movie. There was an idea that was thrown on the table to have members of the crew sleeping together inside the ship just to overcome boredom and have some bonding. Despite the idea being tabled, none of the scenes was ever shot apart from the aforementioned one. The one and only sex scene that was shot was later left out in the editing room when the editors were finalizing the project. At the end of it all, Alien ended up being entirely sexless. Next up is the first oral sex scene on our list. Trimmed oral sex in Gone Girl. Here is something that you don't see every day. Sex scenes in movies have been normal nowadays, but having an oral sex scene in a movie is quite shocking to some people. British actress Rosamund Pike played the role of Amy Elliott Dunn in the film Gone Girl. In this film, Amy was the future wife of Nick, a role played by Ben Affleck. The directors of this movie wanted to change the norm that women are always being the ones who are being forced to serve up to male desires when it comes to sex scenes in movies. As a result, the first time that the two characters happen to have a go at it, Nick is the one who is going down on Amy, working on all her desires. When the camera slowly pans on Amy's face, the look on her face says it all. It does seem like she is having the moment of her life. It is just the look that managed to capture the attention of the Motion Pictures Association, which gave orders to have the scene either taken down or trimmed a bit. As a result, the directors of the film had the scene trimmed. Next up is a scene that never made it to TV, but it was implied in the final version of the movie. Dale and Julia in Horrible Bosses 2. Horrible Bosses 1 was well received by both fans and critics alike, something that we cannot really say about when it comes to Horrible Bosses 2. One of the things that have led to the frequent criticism of Horrible Bosses 2 is how men are being treated. Well, that's a first. I mean, in the current day and age, does society really care about what men feel? Just saying. Anyway, the fact that this film was taking male sexual harassment lightly was one of the reasons why it ended up facing a lot of criticism. In this film, as the title suggests, Charlie Dale is constantly mistreated by his female boss, Julia. But here is the thing, whenever Dale tries to talk about how much he is being mistreated by his boss, people end up making fun of him.
You never get any sympathy out of us for this.
She's going crazy. It's like a totally hostile work environment now, man.
None of his friends show him any sympathy for what he is going through at work, but this is just the tip of the iceberg compared to what I'm about to tell you next. Dale is usually mistreated by Julia, but in this film, there is a subplot where Dale is sick in hospital and he is unconscious. During this time, Julia happens to get intimate with the unconscious Dale while he is still in a coma. I mean, who even does that? How does it even happen? I don't know, man, but I surely don't want to see that. However, this scene did not make it to the final cut, and so it was implied rather than being explicitly shown on screen. The next scene is about my favorite supervillain, Joker. Arthur in the bathtub in Joker. I'm pretty sure that more than 90% of movie lovers love both the Joker and Harley Quinn. The two supervillains have always stood out as fan-favorite villains. No offense, Batman. The Joker film, which was directed by Todd Phillips, has emerged as one of the most loved films during our time. If there is one thing that Todd did in this movie, is that he pretty much included everything in the final product of the movie. But did he? No. Yes, a big fat no. When this film was being edited, the director ended up leaving one scene on the floor of the cutting room for the room cleaners to come and clean up the dirt. Todd Phillips Phillips was involved in a Q&A at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival, where he spoke about the scene in question. He revealed to the public that during the editing of the film, he did end up editing out a scene that involved the protagonist of the film, Arthur Fleck. The scene was about Arthur in a bathtub doing Lord what knows what. According to word on the street, the scene was not just inappropriate, but it also revealed Arthur's splong. But hey, that is just what people have been saying in the street corners. But in the film's defense, the director did go further to claim that the scene was not that sexual. I'll let you be the judge of whether he was saying the truth or not. The next movie on our list had 10 scenes which were deleted because they were too much for TV. 10 deleted sex scenes in Bridgerton. The famous Netflix show, Bridgerton, had numerous sex scenes that were apparently deleted because they were too much, which is funny because this show did have countless sex scenes that it is very difficult to believe that the editors did leave some scenes on the cutting room floor. The intimacy coordinator of this film once revealed that there were more than 10 sex scenes which never made it into season 1. Speaking on Bridgerton, the official podcast, Lizzie Tablet said, "I can think of potentially at least 10 sex scenes that didn't make the final cut." Can you imagine that? 10? Bridgerton? Unbelievable. According to what Lizzie revealed during the podcast, most of these scenes featured Duke with other women, and Daphne was also not left out. Now, here is something that might act as a shocker to many. Part of the deleted scenes which never made it to our screens included one scene which was actually included in the original official trailer of Bridgerton. Lizzie also added that one of the deleted scenes included Duke going to the streets where he was meeting up with escorts and doing all sorts of things. Despite the fact that it is difficult to believe that this film had sex scenes which were never included in the final cut, it is nothing but the blunt truth. The next deleted scene involves characters who were made out of wood. Puppet sex scene in Team America, World Police. Team America, World Police was created by the same people who came up with South Park. In 2014, the movie was at loggerheads with the Motion Pictures Association for the oral sex scene between marionettes. Now, here is the thing. The creators of this movie made close to 10 resubmissions of this scene to the MPA, but the association was still not having it. In fact, The Guardian reported that the film is facing what they termed as the box office kiss of death NC rating. At that time, the filmmakers were looking forward to getting an R rating, which would allow viewers under the age of 18 to see the film when accompanied by an adult. After a long contest that was put forward by directors Matt Stone and Trey Parker, not forgetting the film's producer, Scott Rudin, they had to trim down the scene, despite the fact that their characters were made of wood and lacked genitalia. There is a whole chunk of the scene that never made it to TV because the MPA felt like it was too much for an R rating. The final is a lesbian sex scene in a classic sci-fi comedy. Lesbian sex scene in Barbarella. For the younger generation, Barbarella was a classic sci-fi that was released in 1968. The movie was directed by Roger Vadim, and it was based almost entirely on a French comic series which was written by Jean-Claude Forest. The film follows a story where Barbarella, who is a space traveler and representative of the United Earth government, is sent out to space where she is supposed to find a scientist who was known as Durand Durand. This scientist is said to have created a weapon that could destroy humanity, and so Barbarella was on a quest to save mankind. In this film, there were rumors that Jane Fonda, who plays the role of Barbarella, was involved in a lesbian sex scene with the evil Black Queen, a role played by Anita Pallenberg. Despite the fact that there has never been tangible evidence that this scene existed, people still believe that there was such a scene that was left out of the final edit of the movie. If you enjoyed watching this video and would love to explore more exciting videos like it, click on any of the cards on your screen.